The thing that you need to know, which is ongoing, which is sort of the backstory, the assignment for the code is really to exponentially go into the detail in any given object and see more and more and more. So in this map, this all here represents the freeway system. There's like clover leaves and like interchanges and stuff like that. Whenever you're looking this way on the freeway, you would see San Francisco, which is not San Francisco, but for the sake of understanding. And whenever you're looking this way on the freeway, you're going to see the Matrix City, which we're basically calling Mega City, and it will contain, you know, where all the other scenes occur.
You do need to know what this city looks like, at least from an art direction standpoint. So you get an overall sense of the plan, and also for things like sightlines, like to know where in the background on the horizon is this mega city coming up.
The freeway was used as step one to create the skyline of Mega City. And Mega City took about 2 months from beginning to end, laying out where buildings were, how much sprawl was going to be, the height of certain skyscrapers, how it was going to tie in with the freeway system as well.
It was pristine and beautiful and glittery in the center, and industrial and decayed at the edges. And these are certain things that we sort of figured out on our map.
I did a painting of the mega city, which we keep seeing in the distance.
Even though it's imaginary, we need to know where those things are occurring. So here's the collage of the mega city. At the base here, we have the main urban area, which has the tallest buildings. We've basically taken urban highway design and taken it to a Baroque level here.
It's like really complicated freeways interleaving and, you know, clover leaves and all that stuff.
This is what I was given to start from, actually. So I had a pretty... This is John Gaeta's drawing.
It was intended to look like that.
The freeway interconnects all the megacity with the suburbs and this industrial wasteland.
You get an overall sense of the plan and also of the sort of organic quality that all of these highways have.
We are developing a camera technique which can only really be realized with virtual environments. That is an extension of Alfred Hitchcock's vertigo effect.
You can see Mega City in the background throughout the freeway chase, but this is the only shot where you actually fly outside of the freeway walls and just completely see everything that is out there.
The idea is that this was Neo's POV and that we wanted Neo to perceive ahead of him where Morpheus and Keymaker were. So we do one of these like vertigo shots that basically, you know, cover like 2 or 3 miles of space, like and zoom straight in on the trucks colliding and then snap back out of the vertigo. So basically using the vertigo, he's perceiving ahead of him, and then we return back to his real world travel.
We started this shot January 2002, finished it almost a year later. Wanted it to kind of feel like a circuit board of a computer.
Everything outside of the freeway walls is actually CG, but then stuff in the distance is stuff that I painted. But it's really hard for me to actually tell you which is my painting and what's CG, because it goes by so fast, and it was so long since I did it. Like that, I think's mine. Yeah, that's mine.
Like to take the elements that we captured when we were out there on location and do a little concept to help the visual effects firm, in this case it's Animalogic, understand the timings. This was the original Viz. The world is rotating, the twins are being pushed up by the wake of the explosion.
This is the element for the kind of pull-up part of the shot.
And then eventually we ended up with live-action plate of the roads. Then we did pyro plates, and we did blue screen stunts of the twins, which we are manipulating a little bit. This is 100% virtual flame.
They filmed a lot of pyro elements. We took that footage and analyzed it and, you know, found out what it was about it that made it look like fire and smoke. And spent a lot of time writing and tweaking software to get that same look.
Put them all together, and then we will be adding some other CG effects as well for Animalogic.
I might major effect at this stage would be the twins phasing. Originally, we were trying a lot of experimentation with how far we could take the characters away from reality. Maybe they didn't have any of the things that you would normally expect in a live action scene. We've done a lot of investigation into how jellyfish look, the way you can see through parts of them, how the light affects them.
And we did talk about, you know, translucent undersea membrane-y undersea life. We thought it was a good ghostly approach.
The way light moves through something like a jellyfish and the edges you get, it's such an amazingly subtle thing, and it's quite difficult to reproduce.
John actually pointed to some of our jellyfish references and went, I have these! You have this one. It's just like, we were like, oh, thank God.
This is the first shot we started, which was, in retrospect, it was probably a mistake because it was quite difficult to fine-tune an effect at an angle like this. The concept work that had already been done by John and Larry and Andy at Eon, and then we took that further, the way that twins have to react in different conditions. The first stage would be the background element, which is just a piece of the freeway with the twins' SUV. And then we shot a separate element of the twin against blue screen. The twin we shot on wires at 72 frames per second, so that when they phase, they go into a different time frame. And part of the makeup of the twins is particle body. So it's reminiscent of sinews and muscles without being anatomically correct. So this is the simulation of the particle system that we do first. It takes a long time to generate all those millions of particles, so we need to do a quick render to just see if we're in the ballpark. When someone moves fast, you don't want all the particles flying away. You want them to maintain the structure of the arm. So we've had to cage them in a way. Okay. And then this is the transition from the live action. This is a basic model of one of the twins. This texture here is basically on a almost skull-like to give them a more cadaverous look when they're phased. When we see the final composite, you don't see all that detail, but we pick up a lot of it as transparencies and highlights and lowlights to make it appear like all that information's there, but we're seeing through it. We have a number of sequences on the freeway that are the agent takeovers. We did the takeovers in the first movie, and the reference was that kind of distortion, that Francis Bacon distortion, and it's a violent and aggressive takeover. It's not meant to be pleasant, so we've had to scan all the characters so we can animate from one head to the other. All the effects were very complementary. Even though it was different companies and everything, it had a really complete whole look.
Would it be like crazy experiment, like maybe like could start the shot maybe even a tiny bit more than 180 and end it with less than 180? It's a bullet time shot that we were going to do as an all virtual background. So there's a lot of debating going on if we could take a plate that approximated this turntable look.
We were going to have a totally virtual shot, but we managed to shoot such a good helicopter plate that we decided it would be good to use it.
The truck, which was intended to be the center of our turntable, needed to stay the same image size the whole time.
So at the moment we're in the process of really stabilizing that helicopter shot to make it look more computer generated, actually. Strangely enough, rather than the other way around.
Involved in working backwards. So taking what we see on film and from that reconstructing computer data that describes the scene that we're looking at. What we've actually developed is some software that actually can analyze exactly what's going on with the truck in order to understand exactly how that object is moving relative to the camera. Because without that, we have no idea where to put the graphics in the scene.
So we could put all of these overpasses and characters onto the truck and then end up stabilizing it so it looks like a perfectly smooth computer-generated move.
There are a couple of CG people shots in this along the way. There's one here where we Morpheus gets thrown by Agent Johnson. The reason that's CG is because the camera move is so difficult to do.
We're going 360 degrees around the character and then coming up and looking down. It's something that wouldn't be very easy to shoot practically.
It actually looks like Morpheus, doesn't it? It's kind of cool.
Okay.
What we decided to do was build something that was based on analyzing a real performance.
Can Lawrence Fishburne do a flip like this? I don't know, maybe.
I guess you can't really see it, but we had written a special wind deformer that would show little ripples across his back as he's flying down the freeway. Because we thought, well, this shot is just crying out for wind. So, you know, we just put it in and we kind of snuck it in ourselves.
At the end of the day, all this data is just a bunch of numbers inside a computer. And everything we're doing to them is just a bunch of mathematics. Strangely, it all seems to work, and you can actually get images out of that process.
I don't know, we look at it and we see CGI and we see pixels and numbers running through our heads. And I think the average audience, and we're hoping, will be able to suspend their disbelief and really get into the sequence. Okay? Is that it? I've got a lot of work.